Sean Campus. Welcome to Coffee Hangout. I hope everybody's doing well. Today we are going to be discussing how to communicate with your partner. So, um, I think that communication happens to be at the forefront of a lot of issues, and we probably will skip over it. And usually, the issues that end up happening are things that we focus on because that is the thing that we kind of could see hurts us. But imagine if we interacted with each other, because communication is both verbal and nonverbal. Imagine if we were able to communicate with each other in a way that was supportive, in a way that brought us together, in a way that was building our relationship up, right? Can you imagine being in a relationship where you actually could talk to somebody about something hard and it doesn't end in an argument or end in days of hardship, right? Or you can say something wrong and your partner is willing to see more of the context and where you're coming from and really what you have going on the inside, even if you don't say it right. Can you imagine if that was in your relationship? That, to me, that's the goal. That would be what's amazing. But a lot of times that's not what's happening. A lot of times what's happening is we're being shut out, right? We're there's walls being built, right? The bridges to being able to communicate together are being broken up. Um, we feel insulted or less than, not seen. All those things are happening instead, to where it almost feels better to to think of how, should I just be alone? Is there a different way? And in worst case scenarios, I've seen where, people even find somebody else, right? Because the one thing that's for sure is when you first meet somebody, they're definitely willing to pay attention in ways that, um, and allow you to say things um, in ways that you shouldn't be saying things or that wouldn't be helpful to your relationship. And so, you know, you look for outs and you try to find different ways, and now there's such a disconnect and resentment being built and challenge being built in a relationship that it seems like there is no good way to be able to communicate with your partner. And no matter where you're at on that spectrum of, like, man, we're disconnected and we're having a challenge, no matter where you're at, there's definitely hope. I mean, I've seen plenty of couples be in hard situations and be able to come out of that scenario and do it all different. It's not that it doesn't take work. I myself have been able to switch things over, and I think that's kind of where a lot of my passion for what we're doing comes from, is that I've been there, and I don't want to see other couples continue to suffer. I don't want to see your children have to suffer because of what you're going through. And so, what is the trick? What turns communication around? And so the first thing is, I'm going to acknowledge that, the idea of us being able to be skillful and be able to say, like, here's the things that you need to say to your partner that will be helpful, that's out the window. I mean, if you're trying to control your partner's behavior with your communication and trying to somehow maneuver around, like, okay, if I say it this way they won't get so angry, or if I if I if I don't say this then they'll be okay with me, right? Or I don't need to say everything, and then our relationship's going to grow. Like, all those things are the wrong kind of track. And so if you're thinking about the what to says and those kinds of things, that it honestly will be a waste of your time initially. So there will be a place for you to be able to think about, should I use I statements, and how, how can I be effective? There will be a place for that. But the overall issue, especially whenever you're struggling in a relationship and it's headed down that way of feeling like, man, we're gonna really be disconnected here in a bit if we're not already, right? Um, it really has more to do with, one, some of the habits that you have in your own life, right? So what does your day-to-day look like? And that's important for you to be able to evaluate. And you might think, man, well, my I don't I don't think my day-to-day habits have anything to do with that. And I would suggest to you, try it for a week. Try to start doing different things that are focused in your relationship on building your relationship up, on building your partner up, and being able to focus on you being a person who can do things in a way that says my relationship actually is going to grow, right? So it's just having those kinds of focus on the things that you're doing. So where does that come from? And here's, to me, the big kicker for what you can actually do to switch your communication around. Focus on, and this will be hard because it seems or feels like a knock on you, but this is where your power is at, really. Focus on developing on the inside things that don't make you emotionally react to scenarios. And instead, they are based on the vision that you have for your relationship. So in the beginning, I told you it'd be nice for us to have, a whole lot of goodness, where our relationship is resilient, where our relationship um, is being able to say hard things and do hard things, and we're growing together and we're building each other. If that's your vision for your relationship, draw that vision out and then focus on the things that it means to be in those scenarios. So if you don't focus on who you're being based on your vision, then what's going to happen is your partner is going to bring something to you or say something to you that's sideways or challenging, and you're going to react to that thing because you're in the battle of that moment. But what if in your mind you kept the idea that said, look, I have a relationship vision in a way that I actually want to be in this relationship. And I'm going to start doing all the work that it takes. And this is where you might jump off the Thomas train right here, because it takes a lot of work for you to develop this way of being that's focused on where you want to be in your relationship, right? So if in these scenarios your partner yells at you, and let's just say they don't even yell something that's that bad, they just yell because they're frustrated, right? And your body says it's time to get active, right? And as it says it's time to get active, you're like, no way, you can't yell at me. And then you go back and forth in that scenario. Well, you got hooked, because the real case, if we're working on our vision scenario, the real case and the real scenario that I want your body to be able to have in reaction to that is, look, my partner's hurting. Something's going on with my partner that is making them struggle, and I need to tend to that, or I want to be aware of that, right? So what's the ultimate way of being that's going to be helpful? So the ultimate way of being that's going to be helpful is for you to be in a mode of service. So the idea of service is a big one, because now you're thinking with all of that. So your vision for your relationship, your mode of service, those two things, if you're able to put them together, are a huge force for changing communication in your relationship. The hard thing is that a lot of times we get service confused with pleasing, but you're not in the mode of service so that you make other people happy. That's just an outcome of you being in service to others. You're in the mode of service so that you can be aware of what everybody needs and build the things that you can build so that they can have those things, right? So as you do that, it requires you to know more about yourself and spend more time on building yourself to where you can become that kind of person of service, right? So we're talking about a bigger issue here than most people will tell you about in communication, because most people have a resolution to how things are said. You're with a toxic person, right? And that toxic person, you can't communicate with them, or you should leave them, right? That's not That's not useful long-term marriage advice. And the reason it's not is because that's not the goal. The goal and the vision is not to separate. The goal and the vision is for us to actually come together, right? So how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, it's this. It's you becoming the person that you need to be in the relationship by establishing a vision and by becoming a person of service. If you could focus on those two things, I promise you your relationship's going to have a totally different kind of outcome. And you're capable. You just need to be introduced. I'm introducing you to the idea, and you need to be able to do the steps that it takes to get to that scenario. And then you get to have the relationship later on that means that, man, nothing's going to stop you guys, and you're going to build a beautiful relationship. Your children will benefit because of that, and you'll get to see it for generations and generations to come. All right, you guys, enjoy your day, and we will talk to you soon.